Hey there, here with Graham. Today we are going to be looking into the new Black Myth Wukong trailer running in Unreal Engine 5. Thought this would be a pretty fun tech video to look into. Now Graham's pretty deep in Unreal, so I think it'd be really good to get Graham's opinion on a lot of this stuff. So why don't we take a look and see what we can see.
Let's go.
Captured in game.
Wow.
我在许多奇怪的梦里见过你们，你们因缘际会走到一起。
Cool. Want to talk about those reflection
Alright.
maps?
So yeah, those reflection maps are probably using Unreal Engine 5's Lumen solution as well instead of screen space reflections. You can definitely tell because there's a lot more detail in them compared to regular screen space reflections. Those are actually based off of distance field maps from Unreal Engine 4. So what the engine's actually basically doing is it's creating like a volume around each object and then capturing the objects that also are in proximity of that distance field to create the reflection instead. So it looks really good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it looks natural. Okay, the things that I was looking at this scene and seeing right away is obviously the geometry, like the type of root like tree like wrapping around. Do you think that's do you think that's just using Nanite and it's outright models, or do you think this is tessellated meshes? What do you think's going on here?
I would probably say tessellated, since this game's probably been in development prior to Unreal Engine 4 being released to some
Under 5,
major developers. Sorry, Unreal Engine 5 being released to some major developers. Like I have a couple. I have not a colleague. I have a acquaintance that works at the Coalition. And then he got access to Unreal Engine 5, but I would say like a month or I think 3 or 4 months after they did the initial announcement.
Yeah.
So this game has probably been developed a bit longer than that. So I'd probably say it's just a tessellated version of the regular meshes, just because it took a lot of time to remodel everything.
So for those people watching this who might not know what tessellation is, so tessellation, you would build like a low poly mesh, and then tessellation is a calculation that kind of triangulates between meshes, so it creates more geometry, guessing from one, like the vertices to another, to create more polygons where there are none in the actual model. So they can use it to create more detailed vines in these kind of spaces. There are some drawbacks for using it in specific cases. Obviously, it can be pretty performance heavy. Another thing that happens with tessellation is if you use it on the ground, it can often make your feet sink into the ground, because you can make part of the ground bump up that isn't bumping up in geometry, so your collision isn't going to be set to it. You're going to sit underneath it. So anyways, let's watch some more and see what else we can see. Now, they would have had like to model all of this stuff beforehand, right? So my curiosity is like, how much do you think that they just, by switching to Unreal 5, they had got to drop some of the LODs and just kind of throw in the meshes as they are? Is that the biggest advantage they would have had with something like this?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Sorry. Well, you have like this complex geometry for the scene, right?
Yeah.
So if they were setting up this for Unreal 4, they would have set up tons of LODs, lots of like, so it'd be various versions of these meshes and stuff. And if they were to transfer to Unreal 5, they could just throw in the best meshes and just let it deal with it. So like that would be the big difference, is keeping the quality on all of the things at all the time. Whereas you might have had in Unreal 4, like this Buddha back here, right? You might have had that one being like half the complexity, where it's like, or something like that, to help manage the scene. So
whereas here it's like on like a basically not necessarily per pixel, but based on the amount of pixels that specific object is taking up on the screen. So you wouldn't have to have more geometry that's necessary for how much screen real estate each object is actually taking. So it'd be a way better optimized way to show that geometry on screen. So.
The biggest advantage that we're getting here is that you get so much more detail in the models, and you don't have to be managing your detail resources all over the place. Okay, let's see what we got next. They're totally just showing off Nanite everywhere. They're like, let's put our craziest meshes in the foreground, and then
like all that detail on that, like also that art piece on that wall there is like, they're just showing it off.
I wonder how much of it's photogrammetry, just like literally finding weird statues in China and stuff and scanning them. Nice foliage.
我早
This is
就看
nuts.
出来了
Like, I mean, they could be showing nanite
That's-
stuff like this all day, but it's like the materials here are insane for capturing that like bronze look, and then
Yeah.
like the way that the specularity is on them, the little hot lights that you see that just makes them look like stone and like brass naturally reflecting to light, and the little details in the tiles and stuff. It's like to texture this yourself would be a bloody nightmare. Even just this, like to have all that variety in that, it's like they're definitely using a mixture of photogrammetry and maybe substance to.
You can also tell in the shadowed area of that sculpture, with the bounce lighting in, that looks absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like in the actual like crevices and the sides.
Yeah, like all of this, like all of the bounce light that you're getting, like you can see this.
Yeah.
So bounce light is part of global illumination, and I mean, for they're most likely using lumen. So you get a bounce off of this, and you can see it. So this right here, this color you're seeing, is actually the bounce off of these tiles onto this. So or somewhere nearby. Where's the light source? Yeah, it's going to be one of the spaces somewhere along the roof. You're going to get a bounce on to create that color, which is why you're seeing the same color here represented here. Yeah, anything else you want to say about this?
I don't think so. Let's keep going.
Let's go. Oh, depth of field's pretty
盘
nice.
随的情
Oh, yeah.
怀大志，一心的世俗名利，唱什么命我由
So I would say, like, right off, the one thing that's kind of drawing me, it's like the environments are so photorealistic, and
Yeah.
like the character animation's the thing that's not 100% there. It's still great, but it's
No.
not. It's not completely natural. It's not completely like. It seems like there's like they're not understanding anticipation or follow through or some aspect
Yeah.
of animation 100%. It's mostly there, but it could use some work.
才是天命之选。
Like even there, it's like, do you see that weird
That
hang
didn't
up?
feel very smooth. That didn't feel very smooth.
No,
at
but this
all.
right here, where it looks like he
he-
freezes and then wait, like right there. What's this with the bag? There's just like a
Yeah.
weird bit where the bag stops moving entirely, right there, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it could use a little bit in the animation, but the secondary animations they get for free, like you see on this sash here down here, that's just a physics calculation. So when he does it at the end, you can see it's still wagging. It's a little aggressive, but
自卑的取经人呐、只要
Okay.
心中还有放不下的偶像，
so they're
Like
using.
those tiny little rocks, those tiny little pebbles on that that pillar face there. That detail's insane.
Oh, the
It's like
detail.
little grains of rock. It's ridiculous.
So they're using bokeh, and what bokeh
Yeah.
is, for anyone who doesn't know, is it's these shapes. So when you see light sources in the back breaking up into these kind of like octagonal, hexagonal shapes, then hexagonal or whatever you say, that's bokeh depth of field. It's like a feature of how cameras work. Now, I wasn't.
取经人
What do you feel about this here? I was curious. Your thoughts?
可谓
I feel like the leaves there. I'm not totally sold on those. If you look at like an actual leaf falling from a tree, there's a lot of micro movements that aren't really shown here. Like I feel like these waves from the leaves falling is just way too smooth.
Yeah, same
I
with
don't know.
the branches up here. I was noticing
Yeah.
it. Like, yeah, it's all good. Could be tuned a bit more, but really,
心中还有放
the artistry here is phenomenal, especially on static assets.
一天
I just wanted to say back at that previous section there, the
Yeah.
emissiveness on that bokeh looks far better.
Yeah.
In Unreal Engine 4, the bokeh calculation had a lot of issues with emissive textures. That looks way better.
Yeah, like so. Yeah, emissive is where an object itself generates light. So you're getting much better emission on this. The fact that this is like so much brighter than what you're seeing in the scenes, it's a big step up in that regard.
终有
Yeah.
一天，他将化为修行路上
Seeing some artifacting. I don't know so around. If you look, there's some ghosting around the top of this unit's head. I wonder why that is. You can see it.
路上，
The
Yeah.
shadow cast.
That's like a depth. That's a depth of field issue. When I was doing a project, like a personal project on my own, I ran into that all the time.
Okay.
无解的
Yeah, it's like the room is getting lighter behind it. It's like you can see the tiles appearing behind its head as it goes. It's like an issue with either the ambient occlusion or something with the depth of field effect, where whatever is not behind, because it could be like a screen spaced ambient occlusion.
I feel like they're also using a new. What was I gonna say? If you go back in that previous section there,
Yeah.
definitely using a newer version of Unreal Engine 5 since In the actual early access build right now, the engine doesn't support animated objects, like rigged objects with Nanite.
Well,
So
you have to attach them, right?
Yeah, you usually have to attach them, but that was actually rigged. Like you can see the actual like rock itself like bending. That isn't supported currently. In the future releases, I believe Epic did promise that.
But did you think that they just? Do you think they're actually using Nanite for the characters or do you think that they're just using?
Like you could definitely tell because that character had a crap ton of detail on it.
Yeah.
So it's probably using Nanite for that.
Probably they might not be though, because if they only have one active character on the scene that isn't using Nanite, it might not be the end of the world. But I don't know.
Like in itself, like it wasn't supported yet. Like you couldn't activate Nanite on skinned objects.
Yeah. So, I saw some pop in on the ground. It's deformation in the snow.
Mm-hmm.
It's so creepy. It's giving like a God of War feel right now.
Yeah.
Like Sekiro or God of War. Some worse rocks in the foreground there. I don't know if like the scaling of the assets. It's like if they're using photogrammetry, it's like you might have some areas where you've just scaled an asset too big and it doesn't hold up with the other objects. It's weird in this case because you have this rock here that's kind of loose and you have these rocks under here that are like 3 times more detailed, like literally by his feet. So it's like, I mean, it's hard to track all of that in a game, but you're always going to have some of these things that slip through. I honestly, I'm divided with this character model. I don't know whether it should be more stylized or less stylized. This is my personal bias. I think that a little bit more stylization, a little bit less more away from reality, not a ton, but just a little bit would have helped it.
Like it's starting again at the uncanny valley there.
It is.
It's like it's just moving out of it. Like it looks realistic, but it's still down there.
It is. That one's. The less human the character is, the better it looks.
Yeah.
Really cool. It looked like as it was moving around, snow was falling off.
Snow particles.
In relationship to where it was. It's pretty. There's definitely something like this in God of War.
Yeah. I hope in the actual release of this game they make the snow interaction here a little bit better.
It might be one of those things.
It's a little bit choppy.
It is.
A little bit choppy right now.
It looks like a lower frame rate when how it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things.
It's taking time to like generate it.
There's also some deformation where it looks like you can literally see the pixels distorting on it, where it's like you can see it like just transforming on the fly.
Again, I believe this demo is actually using NVIDIA's DLSS. That might be also be an issue with it.
I'm curious what performance would be like too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of these things might just be DLSS artifacts we're picking up.
Yeah.
Oh, pop in. Saw them pop in this log. This is just still some. Nice. It's kind of funny that it's like everything is crazy polygonal detail, and then when it spews that puke at you, it's just a bunch of 2D texture planes.
Yeah.
Like spewing at the screen. It's kind of this mismatch between, like the legacy tech that still works well enough. Oh, you had literally floating chunks of snow here. Wait, I gotta show you. All right, here. Oh, there it is. See this chunk and this chunk are just floating. It's fun. It's funny because it's like nitpicking this masterpiece, right? It's like the artistry that goes into something like this is insane, but even still, you're gonna find.
Again, it's still in development. I'm excited to see how this how the final project looks. This looks gorgeous.
This is
right now
easily the best thing I've seen come out of China for game development. Like if you imagine how far PlayStation Studios has been ahead on a lot of this tech for a while, right? Or CD Projekt Red or any of the other major developers, it's like this is like a massive jump for a Chinese development
tech-wise
studio.
And like graphics-wise, it's probably for all the demos that I've come out so far from major studios. This definitely looks the best, I would say.
Yeah. There's
You could give Unreal's like original demo a little bit more a little bit less credit since they're actually the original devs of the engine.
Yeah.
But this demo has snow, so the snow looks way better.
It's true. I love snow.
Yeah.
Snow scenes in games are like one of my favorite things to view.
Yeah.
I'm seeing like some wonky over the top physics with the secondary elements. Like if you watch the thing on his like chest, it's just kind of like janking around from side to side at certain parts, but I mean, making objects look like they're their appropriate weight is still such an issue in games. Like, cloth physics and stuff has gotten way better, but it's still not perfect yet.
这大风大雪的，还要这么拼命，一定也是为了那个玩意儿。你来之前，我算过一卦，你猜猜。
Such a creepy bird. Like a weird thing on its head.
Like a what's the word?
Yeah.
Like a heartbeat, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some. I mean, I wonder if there's some lore that ties this specifically in, because it reminds.
This game is based off of a Chinese story.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the details of it, though.
It's the Monkey King, Sun Wukong. But I'm just wondering, because it like the analog, I see that thing and I think of it as like a Tengu in Japanese lore, but I don't know what the equivalent in Chinese lore would be. Nice. Oh, I got like a sweet Chinese dragon there.
Yeah.
This is like something you'd fight in Souls right here.
Yeah.
Except you can't just keep running around and hitting it in the butt like you would in Dark Souls.
They could have made this the scene a bit more interesting if they added some like a little bit more environmental obstacles, you know, like lower visibility or something. Having like snow whip across the frozen lake, I think that would look a bit more interesting.
What do you feel about this ice material?
I'm not 100% sold on it. I feel like it could use a little bit more.
It needs something reflective. It seems a little unreflective for. I mean, it might be just like the thick, like black ice that you get. That's a little bit more matte, the surface, but I don't know.
We shouldn't be picky, you know. Like,
I know.
It looks excellent.
Yeah, you know, they might have found ice that looked exactly like that. I mean, it does exist.
Yeah.
It's just whether. I don't know. Sometimes it's like exact realism might not be the best thing for the scene. Seeing a reflection of this thing may be cooler.
They can go for like a hyper-realistic art style, so they make it look better than real life.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you think about the particles and stuff that are being emitted by this while they're fighting it?
To be honest, I can't really see it right now since Discord decided to lower the resolution, but that's okay.
Yeah. Is this using like the typical traditional Unreal particle systems using Niagara? I know Niagara's been in the beta builds.
Updates.
It's been in the beta builds for a while, right? So
I'm pretty sure the full release came out with Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah.
Like the way it's supposed to work.
Did you play between the two? Did you notice any major differences between the implementations?
I haven't played with particles at all actually in Unreal Engine 5 yet.
Gotcha.
So.
Well,
There'll be more documentation in it though, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what they're using for it. Like the volumetric like lighting you're getting by the dragon as it's flying through is pretty interesting in some scenes. What would the best implementation for that be in Unreal?
Well, Unreal already has like a volumetric fog system.
Yeah.
And pretty much, and now with Unreal Engine 5 now, it also supports missing materials as well.
Yeah.
So if the dragon itself had like a lightning veins or something, like lightning marks on it, it would actually show up in the fog as well.
The lightning looks kind of weird starting from nowhere. That's the only thing that kind of weirds me out there. It's like, it looks pretty good.
I'm thinking as well. I feel like this scene could have a lot more environmental detail in it, you know, like make it actually like a stormy scene, have like the dragon control, I don't know, the clouds and things like that.
They have a couple of
Make it a
fights
bit
that are
darker.
like that in Sekiro. If you haven't played that, it's right near the end of
Okay.
Sekiro. It's very like that.
I don't have a PlayStation. I really should pick one up.
That's on PC.
Oh, it's a PC. I didn't
Sekiro's
know
on
that.
PC. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard though. So, I played all the Souls games, and none of them kick my butt more than Sekiro. So this is like the montage portion.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy seeing this because it's like I was just playing Neo 2 like not too long ago, and this destroys it from like an asset perspective, like the quality of the assets, but it's behind on like animation and particles and some stuff. So it's kind of like this mismatched thing. It's like they've jumped ahead on these specific fronts and they're a little bit behind on like just overall understanding animation and things like
Again, the game is supposed to come out in 2023, so they got a bunch of time to do a bunch of polish. But as of right now, it looks absolutely gorgeous.
that. It does, but it depends, right? Because I mean, working in games, it's like you often have to leave behind assets just to make more content,
Yeah.
right? It's like the amount of game changes between the demo and the release often is not as much as you wish that it would. So you do give leeway, right? They can improve all of these things, but it's like I don't think they're going to remocap like all of these scenes and fine tune all of the
No.
animation. They're just going to keep going with the animation direction that they're going. That's
Yeah.
probably my biggest gripe is just the quality of animation. It's a bit stiff.
Yeah.
The tech's nuts though, like the particles and I mean I know a lot of
like Niagara's particle system is ridiculously good.
a lot of it is the canned particle system within like Niagara specifically. That bear's fur. Oh, how do you think they're doing that?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
like just splines?
I know if you watch the original Unreal Engine 5 demo, they're using a new hair system now as well.
Yeah.
So most like fur characters or hair doesn't actually use like hair cards anymore. They have like a new hair spline system.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how it works though. I know they're not using hair cards for that though. It looks stunning.
Well, it
though.
doesn't look like hair cards. Like hair cards, you always
No.
see those like typical layered sections. You can see where they're doing it, whereas this looks much more organic. I'm curious what the performance is on this. Like, is this gonna like try to get all of China to upgrade its graphics cards? Is that like or everyone like this? There's a lot of these games lately that are pushing. It's like I can't imagine this running on PS4, right? So it's like there's got to be
No.
ditching for next gen and you know everyone to upgrade their graphics cards because I don't know if you have like even a 1080, I'm imagining you'd have problems with 1080p 30 with this. So,
I mean, it does have DLSS now, which does like save a lot of performance.
but like I
Even
said,
the-
upgrade your video card because the 1080 doesn't support DLSS. You don't have a choice in
Oh
the
yeah,
matter.
you're right.
It's 20
You're right.
series and above, so you need tensor cores. So, without tensor cores, you have what 2 generations of GPUs. So be in the NVIDIA 2000 generation or the 3000 generation, or suffer low frame rates. Who knows?
So I was playing around with the Unreal Engine 5 demo recently, and I do get around like 30, 45 FPS on a 2070 without DLSS, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
That 1080p, right?
Yeah, 1080p.
Yeah. So many animated models there. It's cute.
Mhm.
Well, now that they're taking down all those mining rigs, there should be a plethora of GPUs to sell, right? So oh. What's pulling him?
就别想再
I definitely gonna have to give this game a try. It's clicking all the right boxes for me. Freaking Nanite.
Like those snow particles in the background look beautiful.
The bird's flapping animation is actually kind of weird.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. It looks a little bit off.
It's holding its down position too long and then sliding.
Yeah.
Great. So that was Wukong. What are your thoughts?
It's very pretty, to say the least. They're clearly also using like a newer version of Unreal Engine 5, since there are some like features in here that aren't supported default in the engine.
Yeah.
I also noticed at the very end though they had a couple of like partners that the game studio is working with. They had like
NVIDIA was there.
Epic Games and Nvidia, so they probably have some proprietary tech that isn't available to the wider public yet, which is why this demo looks so good.
Yeah, well, I mean, the question comes with anything that looks so good as performance, which is why I've always had an issue with like when people say 1080p or 1440p or 4K cards, because this game is probably going to turn a 4K or 1440p card to a 1080p card pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, which is obviously why tech like DLSS and FSR and things like that is so critical, and improving that tech to the point where you don't care about resolution is even more critical.
Yep.
So I don't like, to be honest, from an artistry perspective, I'm pretty blown away. From an art direction perspective, I'm a little bit less so. Like from a tech and a like asset generation, I put it like 9 to 10 out of 10. But from an art direction, it's like I honestly think the characters could use a little bit more stylization to bridge that uncanny valley a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they could have used a big boost in animation. I'd probably give them like a 7 or an 8 there. But like, it's very impressive. Like, I'm curious how much you think of that is just naturally taking advantage of the massive advances in Unreal Engine and just having a team big enough to pull it off quickly, or how much of it is, custom, them being able to take advantage of it more than other people would be able to for that.
There probably is a bunch of custom stuff, mostly because they're actual industry partners that they have working with them, like NVIDIA and Epic Games.
Yeah.
There's some tech they showed off in this demo that isn't available in the base engine right now.
So what specifically?
So either, the biggest thing was rigged nanite models. So I skinned nanite models.
Yeah.
There's a section where they had a character which had an extreme amount of detail on it.
Yeah.
Like a rocky detail on it, and they were able to rig it and have actual deformations that isn't technically available
yet. Which makes me wonder if they just like, because imagine that scene is not ever going to be gameplay, right? It's like you could just do it, and they say it's real time, but I don't know. There's a lot of ways to cheat a scene like that. In worst case scenario, you render it and put it in a video in a game, right? So it's like sometimes you have to watch with stuff like that, where it's like it could be using Nanite update where you can animate the models. It could be using a base rig that has a lot of Nanite parts and then other parts in it that aren't. Possible, so to allow them to have the illusion of both. There's a few things that they could in theory have done. I'm curious what. Anyways, yeah, it could be a lot of those things. But I'm excited to play it. I think that
definitely.
Yeah, it's like I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these kind of things in about 1 to 2 years. So this is like the first wave of games that are using kind of the modern asset features that we get from basically the push to new consoles. The fact that we didn't have high-end CPUs in any consoles before, and the fact that we didn't like the modern engine tech that is going into this, for especially like using GPU features. Like, I don't know if they're using mesh shaders or not. I'm pretty sure that Nanite does use mesh shaders to some degree, but using some of the new tech in the new consoles and kind of having 10 teraflops as a base is a pretty good jumping point to make games look considerably better. So, anything else you want to touch up before you wrap up?
I don't think so. I think we can wrap this up now.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Graham. It was fun.
Not a problem.
I appreciate the experience from playing around with Unreal quite a bit yourself. So thank you so much for this, and I'll catch you on the next one. Feel free to like and subscribe, and next time. Bye.